the year went on, my backlog got smaller. Well, no, it got bigger. Here are the video games I played in the summer of 2024. First is Little Goody Two Shoes. The game's trailer caught my eye because it looked just like a PS1 title. The video quality was fuzzy, yet not too much so, and the character design was very 90s. Just think of Yu-Gi-Oh! And other anime shows from that period. Even the in-game graphics hit my nostalgia buttons for having that fuzziness and color washing reminiscent of CRT televisions. Anyway, this is an RPG Maker style game, which is one part slice of life and one part survival horror. You play as Elise, who lives on the outskirts of a mountain village. When she returns home one night, she discovers that someone had broken in. You track down the culprit and find her in your shed. You take that, intruder. Hit her again. Once you've calmed down, you discover that the intruder is a witch. I said witch, not bitch. It's all good though. Elise makes the witch, Rosamarine, clean the house, and then is off to Sunday Mass. Shortly after you arrive in the village, you learn that you have romantic interests in this game, and they're all other women. Scandalous! A big part of this game is meter management. You have meters for health, stamina, and sanity. If any one of these reaches 0, it's game over. There's also a suspicion meter, which has the opposite effect. If you say the wrong thing to the villagers, they'll suspect that you're harboring a witch, and perhaps the witch that everyone's growing fearful of. During the daylight stages, you have to pass the time by going on dates or doing chores, the latter of which are done through fun Atari-like minigames. You gotta earn money to buy food, gotta eat food to replenish stamina, gotta get stamina to keep on going. This cycle may seem too monotonous, but each day brings a new village crisis to keep things interesting. At night, Elise enters the woods, where a secret denizen promises to fulfill her heart's deepest desire: fortune and the easy life. In these segments, you have to figure out enemy behavior and how to avoid them to solve puzzles. And as Elise witnesses the kind of sinister forces she's dealing with, she has to press on despite her fear, which means you have to press on despite your fear. If you do, you can get treated to some gorgeous visuals, such as this cutscene which tripped me the hell out the first time I saw it. Clearly, this game was a labor of love for the Portuguese development team. In conclusion, this game's pretty tricky, but if you like dark fairy tales with surprising twists, Little Goody Two Shoes is right up your alley. On a final note, I heard a YouTuber say that the game is good, but the load times are so long. He was probably playing the Switch port because, go figure. Next we have Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. You know, there's a chance I could have gotten this way back in 2004 if it wasn't for one little thing. This review in Game Informer magazine. The review is pretty infamous for how it bashes a game that went on to become a beloved GameCube classic. The writer said that much of the dialogue, which was meant to be humorous, is, quote, witless and dull. And she took real offense at this computer which falls in love with the princess, since Peach is, apparently hotter than the sun. Ultimately, the message here is that kids' entertainment can and should be smarter and less derivative than what the Paper Mario sequel offers. I wonder if the reviewer has ever seen SpongeBob SquarePants, and how many episodes it has. I hope not, because it might make her head explode. Anyway, I first assumed this was a simple remaster, but no, nearly everything, including the music, has been remade. I may be late to the party, but I prefer it this way since I like the Switch Pro controller much better than the GameCube Boomerang. The story opens up with Princess Peach taking a holiday in Rogueport, where apparently a freaking gallows awaits her. She sends Mario a treasure map, who then goes after her, and then he has to rescue a female Goomba, who then kisses him. Maybe he shouldn't tell her about the time he killed that one Goomba. And those two Goombas. And those Koopas? Man, they are all dead! What follows is a long adventure involving America's favorite pastime, turn-based battles. Just like in Super Mario RPG, you can enhance the power of your attacks by using timely button presses and thumbstick directions. You also have to take into account enemy types. For example, you shouldn't jump on spiky foes, since they'll turn your toes into Swiss cheese. And as you've probably noticed, damage is normally done in the single digits. And this lasts throughout the whole game. The labyrinths are 2.5D levels in which you go from one rectangle to another, and backtracking is a necessity, in some more so than others. I found that the most challenging labyrinths are in the first 2 chapters, so navigation gets easier while battles get harder. Some of the labyrinths make you go back and forth, trying to economize level space. In between chapters, you play as Peach, and then as Bowser, who sometimes goes through platforming sections, purely as comic relief. And I have to hand it to that Game Informer reviewer, since she makes some good points. This faithful remake reproduces some annoying old-school game design. In shops, for example, you can only buy one thing at a time. You can only carry 15 items at once. And while I found much of the dialogue to be amusing, it rarely made me laugh out loud. The writers clearly wanted to play things safe and inoffensive. The art style is one of the things the reviewer praised, and I must admit I like it better than that in Super Mario RPG. It sort of resembles the promotion material from the early days of Super Mario, so it's nostalgic while still being its own thing. The paper aesthetic is also pretty amusing, as well as female characters who are all super thirsty for Mario. Seriously, Mario is painted as a real stud, which is only slightly less cringy than Sonic kissing a semi-realistic princess. And now for the big question. Is this game basically baby's first RPG? Yeah, it kind of is, even though some of those boss fights are no joke. But hey, at least it isn't based on something like Strawberry Shortcake or Blue's Clues. It's Super Mario, which anyone can get behind. Character development is minimal though, even with fan-favorite Vivian. It's best to think of the story as less of an epic fantasy and more like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, made by smartasses for smartasses. Another way of looking at it is that this is the most famous Super Mario fanfic of all time. After all, this is a game where Peach takes off all of her clothes so she can sneak around. Does that sound like fan fiction to you? There's still no Bowsette though. Come on, Nintendo, think of the possibilities. Going from one GameCube classic to another, we have Metroid Prime Remastered. I have a confession to make. I like the sequel better. I know, it's sacrilege, but I like the idea of a light and dark world, and I think Samus's dark suit looks cool. Anyway, when I fired this puppy up, I started out with motion controls, because I'm one of those weird people who think the game plays better on Wii. But jostling around the Switch controller just isn't the same as pointing at the screen, so I soon switched to the dual stick setup. This might be the very best way to play the game. I was like, so this is what all those Halo players were talking about. I guess having more than one thumbstick really is best. I'm just kidding. I've played FPSs before with 2 sticks. Control scheme notwithstanding, this is a Metroid game through and through. The name of the game is to explore and get upgrades for your suit. There are several different weapons with no ammo count, and abilities such as the Spider Ball and Grapple Beam. In this remaster, I have relived the old frustration of entering a new area, seeing a shiny thing I really want, and realizing I don't have the upgrade I need to reach the shiny thing. Later, I would go back for the shiny things, and I get the usual boredom from constantly jumping around and switching weapons. And that, my friends, is the Metroid experience. Not just exploring, but also backtracking, even if you have to visit the same place 10 freaking times. As for the graphics, they're definitely a step up from the original. Gotta say though, it wasn't as big an upgrade as I was expecting, but what can you do? Now, I may be overreaching here, but I think a typical FPS fan might not like this game. Even if they're not turned off by the backtracking, they might scoff at the targeting system, which makes hitting enemy weak points very easy. So yeah, Metroid Prime isn't for everyone, but I think it's for people like me, who don't normally go for FPSs. And I hear a fourth game is on the way, which I'm guessing will be more backtracky than the original. Hooray! Next, we have Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. Have you ever had a game that you obsessed over? Not because it was perfect, but because it did one or two things right that pushed all your buttons? For me, the original Shin Megami Tensei 5 is such a game. Its turn-based combat is a pleasure to while the hours away with, but it's the music that really impressed me. The soundtrack by Ryota Kozuka has a lot of shredding guitar and dark synth, and I love hearing it through headphones. It's the kind of soundtrack that previous SMT games have hinted at, but couldn't fully realize for whatever reason. And hell, I love this soundtrack so much, I made a Play Asia account just to get it on CD. A simple remaster of this game on PlayStation would have been a must-buy, but this is so much better. At first I thought this new edition included a sequel story, but no, it has a significant branching narrative where new characters affect the original story. In the beginning, you must choose whether or not to take this woman's hand. If you decline, you head to the Canon of Creation, which is basically the original game. But if you do take her hand, you're on the Canon of Vengeance. Throughout this new path, you meet up with some very lovely people, whom I may or may not have to censor. They're called the Kadishtu, who in actual mythology are the angels of sacred prostitution who had mated with Samael, the king of all demons. Holy shit. There's also a new ally named Yoko, who fights alongside you, and she's something of a bleeding heart. Well, okay, she's a real bleeding heart. Her purpose is to talk to pre-established characters and get them to make different decisions than they did in the original game. So she's kind of like a clingy girlfriend who's always controlling what you do and say. The story changes are clearly meant to expand character relations and fix some weak parts of the original story. I'd say the writers did a sufficient job of that. At first it seemed like I'd just be exploring old levels, until I reached Shinjuku, which has replaced Chiyoda in the Canon of Vengeance. Shinjuku is far less twisty than Chiyoda, although there are some twists to be had. It makes me wonder if fans had complained about how tough Chiyoda is. I just figured that tough mazes were simply the typical SMT experience. There are some familiar elements in this new region, such as, oh god! Oh, mother of mercy! If you think that H.R. Geiger is too subtle for you, then this game is for you. In this new version of the game, there are now magical zip lines in every level, some of which take you to new strips of land, while others are alternative shortcuts. There are also new quests and enemies. It still feels like the original game, but with new bells and whistles. Here I have the Escaflowne Enemy series on Blu-ray, and watching it with the new English dub made the series as fresh to me as it possibly could. Same goes for SMT5 Vengeance. This JRPG series is well known for two things: its stories always being about the apocalypse, and its enemy rosters always being the same, more or less. Your enemies are commonly called demons, but they're really just creatures from mythology and lore. They don't usually look traditional though. They're normally rendered with artistic license. For example, there's Lamu, a Babylonian god who's said to be a serpent, but here he simply has an asshole for a face. And this is Zeus, king of the gods, lord of Mount Olympus. And he resembles a certain teddy bear we all love to loathe. Battles are turn-based, and they can be won quickly by taking advantage of elemental weaknesses. Strike a demon using its weakness, and you can inflict extra damage and get an extra turn. But demons can do the same to you. For example, don't take on Nama while you're weak to darkness spells. It won't end well. You're welcome. You can, and must, change your weaknesses by using the Essence of Demons, which can also grant you new abilities. When I first saw footage of the original game, I assumed the main character had a customizable appearance. I thought the player was just having a little fun by putting his character in a skin-tight black outfit, with ridiculously long blue hair. But no, turns out that's the official character design. It made absolutely no sense to me, until I heard a plausible theory on Nintendo Life. When your character, the Nahobino, runs, he has his arms stretched out and his blue hair flutters. You see? And what company owns Atlus right now? Yeah. It smells of corporate meddling, alright. But at least the Nahobino gets a new appearance in Vengeance. So besides the soundtrack, what else do I like about the game? I like how dark the story is. JRPGs are often bright and bubbly, but few others get as dark as a Shin Megami Tensei game. In fact, despite the game's inherent quirkiness, I really feel like I'm traveling through hell. Just not the fire and brimstone type of hell. With that said, it is too bad the story isn't better. Even though the Vengeance canon expands the story, it's pretty bare bones. The only thing I can say in its defense is that it isn't much deeper than in previous entries. But still, the writers didn't take the chance to raise the bar. But with a game as dark and stylish as this, plastic hair and all, I thought this was well worth my time. For the 5th time. On a final note, I noticed that Atlus sponsored a lot of YouTube videos about the game just before its release. I know it's a controversial practice, especially since it puts the game's review videos under suspicion. But hey, Atlus didn't throw any money my way, so you can be sure I was honest in everything I said here.
Fuck you, asshole.
And now we have The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. There's little difference. It's like Skyrim, but without the sex and marriage, and the assassination missions, and the wyverns that were always being called dragons for some reason. Yeah, it took a while, but I finally put on this Christmas gift and saw it to completion. I had heard that this one's more story-focused than Breath of the Wild, and yeah, that's kind of true. I just wish the story went even crazier than it does, but that's just me. I began with Zelda exploring some ruins deep underground, along with her boy toy. Bodyguard. Yeah, that's it. You soon come across a mummy who becomes animated and breaks the Master Sword.
How about a kiss? For luck.
You've got to be kidding.
I then woke up in a strange land hovering hundreds of feet above ground, where there are robots from another age who both help me and come to tear me a new one. Long story short, I found myself back on the ground and made my way to Pura, who used to be an old woman in the first game. But if you read her diaries, you'll find she took a youth-restoring potion that turned her into a high-heeled hottie. Pura had me investigate what remains of the castle, where I saw Zelda again. Before I could catch up with her though, she shoves off as if she had enough of my stupid face.
Well, excuse me, princess.
I went back to Pura, and she had me activate the local Skyview Tower, which, unlike in the first game, shot me high up into the sky so I can land like an overripe tomato. Or at least I would, if not for my paraglider. Pura then told me to investigate 4 sites of unusual activity, which basically set me on course for the game's 4 temples. So I have my direction, but I've played through Breath of the Wild, on Wii U no less, so I know better than to tackle the temples right away. So I scoured the kingdom looking for shrine challenges to complete. For every 4 shrines, I could either get more life or more stamina. Breath of the Wild had physics-based puzzles, and while Tears has much the same, the difference is that this game has zonai devices. Some of these thingamajigs operate with the laws of physics, while others defy physics. They're usually found just lying around where you need them, but you can also drop zonai charges into a dispenser to get random ones to carry around. You can assemble them to come up with different contraptions, which has made people think that Minecraft and Legos were big inspirations for this sequel. I'm sorry to say that I must be really stupid because I couldn't solve some shrine challenges on my own. For example, I thought I was supposed to use a stake to stop this ball and send it to the rotating device so it can... well, shit. Oh, is that what I'm supposed to do? I knew that. Knew it all along. In this shrine, connecting planks is simple enough, but with this one... shit! Well, damn, I was overthinking it a moment ago. As for Zonai devices, you can use your fuse ability to fuse them to your weapons. This increases attack power and gives new abilities, which is necessary since there are tougher enemies that aren't in Breath of the Wild. But hey, at least in this sequel, there are no freaking guardians! Getting from one place to another using the main roads is for the brave and traditional. But for me, I like to find or make a high place and paraglide from there. It's not without risk, but I find it much more preferable, just as long as...
Great! I can't wait to bomb some Dodongos!
Like in the last game, there are Ubisoft towers across the land, but instead of climbing them, you have to do some other kind of challenge. It usually involves helping an NPC, but here I had to simply clear out the camp of monsters at the base. And then I can shoot straight up into the sky and not do that again. One thing that annoyed me was finding out that I can't ask a Great Fairy to upgrade clothing right away. Instead, I have to first help this musical troupe fix their wagon, and then escort them to the ferry to have her open up. It's just an excuse to make me do more Minecraft stuff. A similar side quest is this guy, who is supporting his president. A president's in a kingdom. Okay. Here I put 2 stakes on the slab, place it under the sign, tell Chuckles here to let it go, and he rewards me with money and food. Cool. I also got invited to a little place called The Depths by this dude with goggles. Okay, let's just go down here. Okay, still going. And still going. How deep down is this damn place? Okay, there we go. I hope you're not claustrophobic, because this place is dark and full of dangerous ooze everywhere. The only way you can get anywhere is by throwing bright bloom seeds, which light up the way. Hope you have plenty like I do. There are no shrines in the depths, so I had little interest in exploring. But I'll bet there are tons of juicy secrets down here. Oh look, it's a Gleeok! I remember the first Gleeok I beat, way back in the day, and now I'm gonna do it again. Man, this is gonna be so much fun! Well, damn it, who could have seen that coming? When I felt sufficiently strong enough, I went to Zoro's domain and began the main story quest there. It involved doing some busy work, talk to this guy, talk to that guy, get this thing here, and eventually I swam up a waterfall to the water temple high in the sky. In a traditional Zelda game, temple puzzles require hitting switches and lighting torches, and while you get some of that here, these puzzles mostly involve Zonai devices. Whether you like them or not, these devices are what the game is all about. The ugly-ass boss battle is something in line with a traditional Zelda game. It's no less annoying though, especially in the second half when the monster spreads goop everywhere, and it's hard to keep cleaning it all up. Yeah, I have a few Zelda amiibos, but I especially have amiibo cards. Yes, I'm totally going to hell, but can you blame me? This full set of Zelda amiibo cards costs less than 2 amiibos. It even has all of the Tears of the Kingdom amiibos. So yeah, I cheated. I used amiibos to get sort of free stuff, such as weapons, precious gems, and classic outfits. My favorite is the Twilight Princess Link, but there's also Skyward Sword, Ocarina of Time, and NES Link. By the way, have you ever wondered, what's under there? It's a pair of underwear. What were you expecting? There are a few more things I like to say about this game. It's not as difficult as Dark Souls, of course, but enemy mobs are relentless. They won't politely wait their turns, they will gang up on you. And if you're not careful, you will get absolutely blindsided. Also, this game is beautiful. I don't care for the washed out colors, but still, there are great lighting effects. It's a great demo of the Switch's capabilities, but still, I can't help but wonder how this game would be on more powerful hardware. What if this game was 40 gigs instead of 16? What if the resolution was higher? What if there were more graphical details? Why, it would look something like Shin Megami Tensei 5 on PS5. Perhaps even a little better. I can't help but think what could have been, but regardless, this is a fantastic sandbox adventure game. For me, playing it is like reading a very long epic story. The journey was pleasant, but reaching the end brought great relief. And finally, for those of you who play this or are about to, please, please, the Master Sword was not made for cutting down grass. Just do as I say, not as I do.
You're doing great, Link. You are our hero. Here's a life heart. We know you can be friendly. You're doing great, Link. You are our hero.
I am 44 years old, so I'm going through a midlife crisis, meaning I have to be the #1 video game player in the world. So yeah, I'm gonna grab that mushroom. I'm gonna kill those Octoroks. I'm gonna open that door. Oh boy, the results are in. Let's see how I did. That's about what I expected. Ah, to hell with it. Midlife crises are overrated anyway. But that won't stop me from participating in more weekly challenges. I never played NES Remix before, but Nintendo World Championships is kind of like that. Bite-sized chunks of classic NES games. Your goal is to beat challenges with the best time, whether it's grabbing a mushroom, reaching a door, or killing a dragon. It looks very simple, but reaching an S rank, much less an A+ rank, can be extremely tough. But it's possible. Here I beat my personal best for Stage 1 of Donkey Kong, and I didn't need no hot sauce to do it! There's also Survivor Mode, where you compete against other players' ghost data picked at random. Getting the silver trophy is a breeze, but the gold trophy is another story. It looks like the emulation is true to the original hardware, so you can unfortunately expect some flickering and slowdown to throw you off. With 150 challenges, it's a nice trip down nostalgia road, and I'm looking forward to revisiting this title for a long time to come. By the way, what is this? Seriously, what the hell is this? Please excuse me, this is a fresh reaction to this. We may get some answers to this by the time this video comes up, but I still want to put this in for posterity. So what is this? Is this some kind of glitch that all the Donkey Kong masters know about? Or did somebody mod his game and put in some invisible ladders? I think we're all owed an explanation for this. And I think this world champion, who is just 2 exclamation marks, should be disqualified. Otherwise, the integrity of this entire world championship will be called into question. I thought about wrapping up Octopath Traveler 2. Instead, I picked up something far older in my collection. Tokyo Xanadu is about 9 years old, first released in Japan on the Vita, then given the remastered treatment. Only this year has it finally been released on Switch. I'm guessing the publisher, Axis Games, has been skittish about the Switch till now. The Xanadu in the title refers to the Olivia Newton-John movie, of course. Well, no, I only wish it did. The story is about teenagers who save the world. What can I say? Nobody does this shtick better than the Japanese. Here in America, when we need heroic teenagers, we cast 20-somethings instead. You play as Ko, I think I'm saying that name right, who is about to rescue a girl from gangsters until a door to another dimension opens nearby. In this strange other world, Ko discovers that Asuka kicks ass for the Lord! And even though Asuka does a Men in Black mind wipe on him, Ko is soon recruited into the never-ending battle against the Eclipse, sinister forces who feed on negativity. This game's been compared to Falcom's Trails of Cold Steel series, since you keep an index of NPCs and you can spend quality time with them for small bonuses. But I tend to think of this as a prototype of Ys 8, which has similar gameplay and runs on the same engine. Instead of a tropical island though, this game has labyrinths that look straight from a Hellraiser movie. The labyrinths have angular designs and simple layouts, each one having its own theme and gimmick. The enemies come very close to being the type who put up a modicum of resistance. You know, enemies who just stand around and wait to be killed. But these enemies do fight back, with heavily foreshadowed attacks that make perfect dodges seem like child's play. It is possible though to just run past the majority of brain-dead foes and only do mandatory encounters. But then, how could you level up? The bosses always put up real fights. They're pretty relentless, but of course you have power moves and so-called X strikes to mop the floor with. A good chunk of the game is story time though. These cutscenes don't last as long as in Cold Steel, thankfully, but I do get annoyed at how I can't save right away after a boss battle. I either have to wait for the scene to end, or I can skip the scene and miss out on the story. I'm a loser either way. At one point, there's a J-pop idol concert, which I didn't mind even though I would never go to one in real life. But I would go see Baby Metal, because that shit has to be seen in person to truly believe it. I imagine watching my Labyrinth runs makes the game look easy. That's because I'm playing on normal difficulty. If you want a real challenge, there are 3 higher difficulties where the enemies may still be slow, but they hit really hard. Good luck with that. The story premise is kind of neat, but plot points are far from original. There's even a spa scene in true Falcom fashion. And of course there's a guy who wants to pull off that stunt from Porky's. And of course the ladies compliment each other in a way I don't think they would in real life. Unless I'm wrong about that, I don't know. Overall, Tokyo Xanadu is not as meaty as Falcom's more recent games, and it suffers from it. It also doesn't help that 1 year later, Persona 5 outclassed this game in every measure. But if you're feeling like a plot-driven action RPG that shouldn't take more than 2 weeks to finish, there are certainly worse options. And finally, if you're someone who can't dance like Deadpool, you know, don't worry. You're not the only one out there. Thank you for watching. I like to keep making videos like this, and promote the fantasy books I have for sale, such as A Price to Pay, which I published back in 2021. It's about a sorceress who awakens in a strange room with amnesia, and she thinks it's best to hide how she's lost her memory. She then actually has a brief stay in Paris, since a suitor transports her there for mysterious reasons. She returns home afterward, where she finds out she's a duchess. What's more, she has no family around her, and everyone is afraid of her. The source of their terror is in her past, but can she discover it in time to prevent a disaster? As for me, who knows, maybe one day my channel will grow to the point where I can actually endorse shit. I wonder what that would look like. Hey guys! The wait is over! The mobile game of the year has finally arrived! Super kawaii girls will heat up your summer with this amazing graphics and super cute girls. Talk to your girls, go on dates, and choose one of the thousands of super cool gifts to give them. And if you enter my name as a promo code, you get a free strawberry shortcake to give to any girl of your choosing. And if you act now, the publisher will throw in a super cute plushie straight to your door. Woo! Download Super Kawaii Girls today, because you don't want to be left out, now do you? No, I'm not an actor. I'm totally a Twitch streamer. I'm totally legit. I'm legit, boy! Boy! I mean, it's not like I tried out for Broadway and got kicked out. And now I have to make ends meet by promoting some smartphone game for horny kids. I'm totally legit. I'm legit. You know what? Fuck you. Fuck this shit. God damn it.